Should we start?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. How do we start again?
You like a countdown?
Is there like a
Yes.
jingle?
No.
It
Are you gonna
can be.
play a jingle?
Yeah, I mean you're welcome to make it your own.
Hmm. This is
Sorry, I'm trying
awkward.
to think.
I thought I was getting a jingle.
Sorry.
Okay, think of the the rocket launch, the American what is it? Spaceships. What do they have? The Houston, no, the 10-9. I
Countdown.
don't know. Countdown.
Yeah,
That's the
T
one.
minus. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Turn it into a jingle. I don't know. Mix it with jingle bells. I don't know. But
So
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna fly.
yeah, I'm not even sure where to begin with that.
Okay,
Well-
I'm just gonna count down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
all right. Thank you very much. Welcome everybody to this week in Sci-Fi on Ice, where we drink whiskey and then talk about a story. And today's a special meeting. It's the 25th meeting, so it's kind of a milestone, quarter of a century. Clap, please.
Happy anniversary.
Slow
Yeah.
clap.
I'd known
Slow
I'd have brought like a little gift or something.
Like some streamers, a little popper.
I would have
Maybe a
worn a shirt.
jingle.
A jingle, yeah, that would have been great. And
Yeah.
we all read the story "The Moral Virologist" by Greg Egan, who is from Australia. And
He's from Australia?
No.
that's right. And but there are people live in that very big country, and some of them write stories. And this story is about a very conflicted person who, I don't know, he's been brought up with some ideology, and I think he is. He's been influenced, and then he gets a message from God that he's going to make this virus that's going to save humanity. So, how did you guys like this story? Well, the second time round for us, Nick has joined us for the first time. He read it for the first time, so it'll be interesting to hear our different takes on it. But who wants to go first? Tell us, how did you like it?
Well, let's hear Nick's first impressions.
I think one of the things I loved about starting it was that with a title like The Moral Virologist, you have this picture in your head that the character is this pure, this sort of pure. He's above the people around him. He's above. He's kind of taken the high road, and to an extent, he has. He's just done it in a sort of in a much different way than you expect. So I expected that he would be trying to do the sort of the good thing, and everyone else is, I don't know, trying to do the non-noble thing, and to have that initial thing where you realize that like he's the sort of fanatic with malicious intent. I liked that initial sort of that twist that leads it down, because it sort of subverts the expectation, I think, of hearing, oh, the moral virologist is going to be this sort of noble figure. And yeah, I thought I liked it for that. I always wonder if how we have, when people talk about, we have like, oh, you have a Marxist lens or you have a feminist lens when you read something. I always wonder if now we're going to have, like, in a few years, a post-COVID lens.
Yeah.
Where anything that kind of talks about like this worldwide pandemic is going to have this like anxiety producing effect on the reader that might not quite have been there in the same way pre-COVID.
Yeah. I think anything we read that's got widespread pandemic vibes to it, I think we're all gonna just go, oh, not that again.
Yeah, definitely. Like there's almost like a fatigue from it,
Yeah, I
and
think
you see that.
especially where the countries that we've been in have been quite strict with it, because obviously some
Yeah,
places are quite lax and they, well, couldn't really be bothered.
and it's also like how a lot of like new series and stuff like that has this kind of tightrope of some going, okay, we're going to acknowledge that that was briefly a thing and then go back to normal, or we're just not even going to mention COVID as even existing in our series. And it's like I I do think it's quite interesting then when you look back on something and then it has a different, I think you read it differently to how you would have done pre-COVID.
All right. So what about Dean? Did you give your thoughts just then, or do you want to go into your
Um,
second opinion?
I am reading it the second time, especially the first couple of pages where he's giving the backstory. I found myself going like blah 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 blah. You know, he's having knowing the end result, you kind of want to get to it. Um, I mean, it's obviously this Greg Egan goes through into a lot of details. He really, I felt like he really built up. You know, he did the setting, he painted the picture, um, which the first time around, you know, it was really great. He uh, he painted that picture quite well, and you felt like, you know, there was nothing that you didn't know. With some of the stories that we've read, where you kind of just get dropped in the middle of the story, there's no context whatsoever. Um,
Did
he he did give us that context to why this whatever his name was, Shawcross or whatever,
yeah?
why he was this particular person.
Did you get any different perspective besides that sort of, I guess, the rigor of going through this setting again?
I did find his frequenting of the ladies of negotiable virtue,
Mm,
that was a lot more present for me now in the second reading. Like in the first reading, it didn't really come up as much because
yeah.
I was taking in all the details of him. And in the second read, his interactions with the prostitutes became a lot more detailed,
Mm.
or I got a lot more detail from it as to the protagonist's character.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Sarah. How about your second read?
Um, well, yeah, the first part, I wasn't going through it as quickly or as with little enthusiasm as much. I feel like I understood it better because he does waffle on, and I know last time we spoke about how it was unnecessary and it kind of detracted because he overcomplicates it, and it's kind of like he's overcompensating. Um, but I feel like I understood it better, and so I got a better insight into him and his rationalization of what he thought was his message from God. Um, so that part I actually liked reading again after so long. But I agree with like the interactions with the women, and especially that last interaction. I think it would have still been better if that had been extended a little bit, but it didn't seem as rushed as it did last time. So yeah, everything kind of was, I don't know, a little bit clearer, a little bit more slowed down in a way with the second reading.
Mm. All right, and for me, I want to pick on what Nick said, and because me, I'm really big on names of things. That there's usually something emblematic or meaningful, and so the moral virologist, it almost seems sort of a what is the oxymoron? Like a moral sort of a value thing of viruses and yeah, you start to think, oh, okay, that I kind of see that play on that, but And yeah, I personally found the world building, or the detail creating the setting, definitely renewed with the concepts of really, because it talks about, as his father does the TV show, buys the Christian evangelical thing, so that's where they got the money from, and that's James Shawcross, and then the son is Matthew Shawcross,
Yeah.
and then he's the one at university, and then he's the one who hears the message from God because he's been brought up with these well, I don't want to say crazy, but very how to say,
Polarized.
yeah, very sort of taking ideas to the limit, upbringing, ideological, yeah. Um, and so so you sort of see the effort that the writer goes into sort of explaining, well, this is why he thinks he's receiving this message from God that he's got to do this. And so, yeah, I could kind of appreciate that a bit more, because I remember from our first discussion, we were talking a lot more about the hard science, like, and I didn't really like it in the first reading, the over explanation of the hard science of, I just wanted the writer to tell me, this virus does this, and this is what it means, right? Not like, look, this is the virus, it attaches to the protein, and then it does this thing, and then once it has these other consequences, and you get lost in the science, and it detracts from the story, right? And so, reading it the second time, I was intrigued with the world building a bit more, and the motivations for our protagonist to go out on this crazy endeavor. So yeah, that's my take on it. Should we crack into what we found interesting about the story?
Who first?
Okay, I'll go. So yeah, like I said before, the interactions with the woman was a lot more in the forefront for me. When I read it the first time, I was quite intrigued by the science. When they went into this RNA, and this version of the virus doesn't affect this particular group of people, and this, if only if this person sleeps with that person. Like,
Mm,
the first time I read it, I focused on that a lot more, whereas the second read, I focused on his interactions a lot more, um, which I enjoyed. It obviously wasn't fleshed out to the point of the science, um, but I wonder if I took more time to read it the first time, if I would have noticed the same thing. And yeah, you kind of get that whiff of, oh, I was gonna say the crazy, when you look at his interactions with the woman, especially once he was back, and he started his interaction with the last lady, where he basically had to convince her to take his money.
Mm.
mm,
And you get an insight into his desperation almost. I mean, by that stage, the virus had spread already, and he should be relieved. He should be, just sitting back watching it unfold. But he still has this sense of desperation.
Do you think it's like desperation that he validates himself, like he did the right thing? Because you can see he's kind of panicking at the end because of her point. Or is it that he wants recognition? Because then he talks about that, like going to the papers. Like, I don't know,
Yeah,
it
I
feels
think.
like he wants it just for himself, but also for the public recognition.
Yeah, I think he obviously he doesn't want everybody to know that he's done it, but somehow he picks this particular woman, and he feels like she needs to know. It's yeah, I mean it speaks to his psyche, I think. He's just his psychological state when he's
Wait,
reached that point. I don't know if it's the exhaustion of the traveling, or maybe it's just the interaction with that last lady that triggers it.
oh yeah, I do like the he's got he's got the inside word from God, like I'm doing God's work, and so he can't help it. You've got this secret information that these people don't know, and then he's got two things. He's got the condescending thing because he starts with like, you wouldn't understand, you're gonna die because you're a heathen. But then he also feels compelled to like explain it, and so I kind of like that because that sort of tells him that shows doubts, right? Because if he didn't doubt it, he'd just do it. It'd be like, see, you're a heathen, like, see you later. Like, the work that I'm doing is gonna just, do what it needs to do. So I do like that it's he's trying to justify it to her, and that's his doubt rising.
Yeah, and that's kind of
Yeah,
meant like the personal validation, like whether maybe he doesn't think he's done the right thing, because he knows there's flaws with, like, what was it, the homosexual twins?
Yeah.
Like, well, I guess I'll let that slide.
yeah, I'll work out that bit later.
You're building a
Yeah,
nuclear reactor, and then you're like, yeah, no, you
And
can't.
there's one little loophole, but I'll just ignore it. Like, you shouldn't really.
yeah, or his oh yeah, I totally thought of the babies thing at the end, and he goes, oh yeah, and actually it's a a threadbare solution that doesn't really solve the problem at all. Um, what was it? Babies over the age of 1 month or something ridiculous. 4
Yeah,
weeks.
Yeah, once they pass
breastfeeding.
breastfeeding stage.
Yeah, and and that's his solution to it. So, you know, there's definitely that element, isn't there, where he's papered over certain cracks like that.
I
And
wonder.
is it?
Oh,
Sorry, go on.
no, you finish.
What I was just going to say is it so much as, like you were saying at the end, is it so much that he wants to save this woman, or is it so much that he wants acknowledgement suddenly?
Yeah, because he debates going to the papers and saying, because then he can give them a cure. So but yeah, you're right. He doesn't actually want public recognition. But I wonder that the end there, where he just kind of tags on breastfeeding mothers as sinners that need to repent, which they obviously aren't in common society. Whether that's the author's kind of real jibe at religion, because all the way through it's not necessarily that clear, because he's justifying the protagonist's actions with his justifications and saying, he's had this really strong Christian upbringing, but then at the end it's such a ridiculous answer that you kind of see just how ridiculous religion can be, or I should say Christianity can be, because it is a ridiculous answer. It's very threadbare. Do
Yeah,
you think
or
something else
just
in the story or elsewhere,
I,
or not?
I think just the fanaticism of believing it's that paradox of being, oh well, I've got this scientific practice that's all about argument and counter argument and theory and evidence and backing up what you believe with hard evidence, to then that fanatic belief that whatever I do is correct. And if I've created a virus and it happens to attack children, well then that's their problem, that's the fault of that's the mothers that should repent. It's that sort of juxtaposition of the two.
Well, I just think because like his actions throughout are wrong, because he's creating a virus, but it's still that extreme religious fanaticism, that you can get in every religion, that they think they're doing the right thing, and his back and forth of, why is it me that's chosen? Oh, it's only my pride that's saying that it shouldn't be me. I mean, that's every prophet ever. So in that respect, it's not that unusual, but it's just this, for me at least, just that ending of, it's so ridiculous that, yeah, okay, it's not my fault because, and he has to extrapolate so far and so ridiculously. But yeah, it's just, that's Christianity. It's ridiculous to think that kind of extremism. But that's also my own feelings towards it. It's ridiculous.
It was interesting at the beginning of when he was at college and he was going to take up paleontology, which is, from my understanding, it's like one of the sciences, like the caveman sciences, you know, like the real fundamentals of all science, sort of. I think I've seen some memes about it where, you know, basically geology and like digging up the truth of the past is sort of one of the fundamental sciences, but he gives it up.
But he says that he was going to take it because he was going to defend creationism, and he didn't have the wits or whatever, the stamina to do that for so long.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm getting at, is that it was
Sorry.
that no, oh no, you're right, and you know, I found that it was just like he just skips. It's another example of he just skips past it. He's just like, well, look, never mind that problem, you know, in my worldview. Let's go to this next thing which I can control, and that's you know, so he devotes his time to I'm going to say biochemistry or whatever what did he study?
Yeah.
Molecular biology or something. But yeah, no, I found that interesting.
Yeah, it's like he's chosen the easier option that has, because he does it all in secret, so he doesn't have that buffer to work against. Whereas in paleontology, he'd be constantly having these debates and these arguments with other people. Whereas this route, he's specifically chosen to not work with people, to not take on interns, to not even tell his parents. Like, he's specifically hiding what he's doing.
Which is not very moral.
Yeah, it's very secretive, very shitty.
Clandestine, one would say.
Almost like visiting prostitutes.
No, it's not his fault. It's not.
Not selling him too. Oh yes, I forgot.
You tripped and fell.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, he's still a bad person, really. Or even after the second reading, he's not a good guy.
Well, I reckon this story, like for the format of a short story, you know, it's in my opinion, it really should be like you're describing a scene or a moment in something where you're examining an idea. And I think the story could have started with him being in the room opposite the you know, the young couple making noises in the other room. It could have started with that, and I think that really gives the reader the impression of his obviously his whatever his shortcomings and his moral sort of judgments on other people. I reckon that would have been a really good start of the story.
Yeah, it would have illustrated that spark as well, that he's like, oh, that's the straw that's going to break the camel's back.
Yeah, and whereas I think the writer kind of really wants to tell the reader, like, look, here's his background. And in short stories, you don't need to do that. Like you got novels to do that, and you got the time to do it, and then the reader can get invested in it. And you know, and then maybe in defense of the writer, like he does it within 20 pages, so it is interesting, so it's kind of okay, but. Yeah,
I think it's necessary though.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like it's such an evil thing to do, to make a virus that will kill people, that he needs to give the reader the justification as to why he thinks this is the right thing to do. And I think it just kind of sheds light on how that fanatic thinking can be warped and can take you to an extreme. But I think all that background is necessary for that.
Mm.
So you feel some semblance of sympathy, kind of. Well, it's not necessarily his fault because his parents are also fanatics. They're just going down the public argument kind of route where, you know, the radio station, the TV channel, they're interacting with people, but he didn't want to do that. He's going down this secretive clandestine route. But it kind of gives you the context as to how he got to that place in the beginning to then choose that other route.
Yeah.
It's very much like a case study, isn't it? And like you're making a psychological profile of the protagonist as you go along.
Mm.
And you're peeling back these layers. So first it's this, you know, oh, okay, so he was a little bit disturbed listening to the, you know, the couple next door. Oh, but now you find out he, you know, sits on a bucket naked and talks to prostitutes. And you're sort of peeling back these layers, going, oh, this is a, you know, deeply disturbed individual, almost writing your notes, sort of looking at your clipboard and going, okay, well, you know, if you're a psychologist, you'd be going, okay, we're making some progress here. That's, I'm deeply concerned.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, you need that background for the context for that. Yeah. But you're right, Stephen. Like he does do it in a very short time, and he does it succinctly. So it's not that distracting either, in my opinion.
I think also
Yeah.
like there's a level of like your belief is the suspension of disbelief. Like we don't need a complete picture. Like for the, you know, money's not a problem. We're kind of briefly told about the you know, his dad's rich and he doesn't have to ask for money because tax reasons he gets a lot of money from the businesses, and we don't really ever go into depth with that. It's kind of like we'll just accept that as an aside, like that doesn't need to be fully explained, and that's quite good because obviously at the end otherwise you'd go, well, how the hell did he have all the money for this?
Mm.
But as a quick aside of like, oh, for tax purposes, a lot of the business accounts were in his name. It's like, okay, I can get on board with that, and then I don't need a full explanation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because if it was a longer story, you could go deeper into the case study as well and be like, so what is up with his parents? You know, what is that relationship? Because he doesn't interact with anyone except the prostitutes.
Well,
Yeah.
another relationship that I liked in the story was his relationship with God, and he had a problem with, because he thinks that God created AIDS to like kill the sinners, right?
Mm.
And you know, and he was thinking, but it was imperfect, and he was like, "Well, God, like you did it wrong. Like my virus is, don't you worry, God. Like my virus is going to like do thy bidding and do a better job, get more sinners down to hell." And so you know, there's that I don't know, what would you call it? It's not a delusion. Well, I mean, it is a delusion, but I mean, his relationship is sort of conflicted because he almost doesn't trust God, but then at the same time he's doing his work for him.
Yeah, it's odd because if God is omnipotent, which he should believe that he is, then he should trust that what he thinks God wanted is what God wanted. And if God wanted AIDS to be stopped by a condom, then that's what he wanted. But yeah, he's very conceited to think that he can do a better job than God.
Yeah.
That's the kind of argument is like, if can God make something that is more powerful than him? Because there can't be anything more powerful than God. But then you're saying that he's not all powerful because he can't then make that. And it's one of those catch-22s.
I feel like I'm going back to Terminator all the time, but Terminator is kind of a good it's kind of a good example of things that we like. Let's call ourselves God for a moment as like a experiment.
Okay.
Yeah, we are God, right? For example, oh, whatever. And but we make what are they called? Dean, you know this. What are they called?
T2000s.
Yeah, they're better than us, right? They're more powerful than us, and they might interpret what the humans wanted us to do this, right? And we're like, no, you weren't supposed to do that. You weren't supposed to kill Connor. Oh, were you? I can't remember. But yeah, that's. I wonder if that's. Does that make it work?
Yeah, I guess. But it's still like if you, I don't know, I still feel like those super Orthodox Christians in like the Bible Belt in the States, they're still kind of thinking that God is all powerful, all knowledgeable, all everything. And they are just their humble servants, his humble servants, sorry. Um, you know, trying to get to that level. Um, I think it's a flawed understanding in terms of his Christianity, because you are told he's from the Bible Belt and he's got that certain upbringing because of
I
this
like.
case.
Yeah, I like that word that Nick used before about fanaticism, and I sort of see evangelicals as fanaticists, you know, whereas maybe another word, orthodox, would be people who would also, we might call like true to the Bible, but we don't see them as crazy. They're just a bit more crude and plain and boring.
Mm.
Yeah.
But he also mentions in the story, where it may be I'm misremembering, about the timing of those epileptic children and like the parents just mistimed the medication. Was that in the story? Or am I thinking of
That
something else?
I think you're thinking of something. I don't remember that part in the story,
Okay.
unless I've completely gone over it quickly. But
No, I don't remember anything about epileptic children.
Let me see if you carry on. I'm gonna have a little.
we missed that page, Dean.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of his actions are I wouldn't say fanatical. I'd say they probably bordering more on heretical, because he's going against the the kind of doctrine that's already there. And yeah, I mean there's fanaticism, and then you go completely left field, and you're a couple
Well,
of crayons short of a coloring box.
I think all evangelicals have like an element of heresy in their action, because like they reinterpret um I don't know, the whole gig, right? And
Yeah,
like where the Protestants were kind of like, whoa, you're taking it too far. Yeah, we're rejecting like these elements of it, but that doesn't mean you can do like a whole like do over of it. And yeah, no, yeah, there's definitely a heretical sort of side to that, where especially when you see those American TV shows of like, what do you call it? Because I think it's just fake, right? They have
Okay.
people in wheelchairs and they pull them out like, whoa, he's walking again. I've cured
Yeah,
him.
that's what he talks about, and that's what I'm thinking of with the epileptic children. It's Matthew Shawcross's TV station. And it said it was interspersed with local novelty acts such as snake handlers protected by their faith, not to mention the removal of their pets' venom glands, and epileptic children encouraged by their parents' prayers and a carefully timed withdrawal of their medication to let the spirits move them. That's what I was thinking of. Matthew Shawcross would show on his TV station is this, heretical kind of over the top con, basically, to show that God is so good.
Yeah, I did like the imagery of like, I'm thinking of something like a Statue of Liberty, but she's holding like a torch, no, cross or something. And yeah, and that was like this empire of religious no, meet like just a TV channel basically.
Text I love God to
Yeah,
OW79 and, pay us $10 or something for the privilege.
Yeah, and then I turn up to wherever on my Harley Davidson and like, what's up? What's up? What do? God is good, right?
Yeah, but
Boom, boom.
this is all the father's doing, right? This TV station, the imagery of liberty with a cross, and so this is what the kid is growing up with, who then goes to university, who then thinks this is his calling. So all of this, yeah, like you said at the very beginning, um, he's been brought up and conditioned in a certain way with his heritage. What did you call heretic religion? I was only half
Yeah,
listening.
heresy. So but actually, it's funny you mentioned the dad actually, because then you've got that the sort of crimes of the father and the son, that they're both people arrogant enough to claim that they and they alone know the will of God, and you've got the father who does it to massively profiteer off of people's faith and fill his pockets by claiming that he is this harbinger of God, and then the other tries to kill half the population with a deadly virus. So you've got two
Mm,
people who've sort of taken on this mantle of zero invitation, zero support, but take on this sort of moral high ground that they really don't deserve, and then use that for malicious gains. The dad uses it to, make a load of money, and the son uses it to create a deadly virus that will kill people, including children.
mm, yeah,
So blame the dad.
yeah.
No,
That's
I'm
what I
not
mean.
sure
The
about that.
context useful. Oh man.
It's interesting how that there's different exploitation. Well, one is invited and the other is a bit more covert. But it's just with the son. Is it Matthew the son?
Matthew's the son, and I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
James the father. I think. Yeah, I kind of
Matthew's
want
the
to.
father. I think John is the son,
Uh,
isn't it? I don't know. I've just forgotten.
well, the father. I see. I kind of based on our conversation now, I kind of want to know like the father's thoughts. Like, did like I want to know like say if there was a message like a line in the story where it's like son, we've built this TV empire, for in God's because God asked me to do it, right? And then so he says something like you've got to do like what fulfill God's message, and then the son who goes to university, he's like holding on to this like commitment to his faith, and then he's like, well, yeah, I've got to do God's thing, and so like AIDS this, so therefore virus that, and I
yeah.
reckon that might have helped. I would have liked that more if we're gonna. Otherwise, don't bring in the father, because otherwise, it just explains the money and the ideology. But
That would be fascinating to explore that more and say, what are the consequences if you peddle this extreme version, this extreme heresy of faith to whip people up and try to profit off of that? Is the consequence that you then get a load of extremists that then want to do harm with that, and all you wanted to do was make money off of it? It's kind of the unintended consequences of that.
Yeah, well, it's that skewed perception of morality. And I think that's probably
Yeah,
where the moral virologist comes in, is that his morality is so skewed that yeah, I mean it'd be like being Nietzsche's kid. You're bound to be a little bit off center.
yeah,
mm,
Yeah, because anything they gain, like the money or the destruction of half of humanity, it's kind of, well, that's just what's meant to happen because I'm
Yeah,
following God's will.
yeah,
So,
because
yeah, they twist.
everything is going to be is going to be seen through those rose-tinted glasses. The most innocent act or the most deprived act, they automatically get polarized by this version of morality that he was obviously exposed to as a kid.
Mm.
the last thing I'm interested to talk about is I'm not sure if we mentioned this last time. I felt like the last lady that he spoke to, her casual reflex and explanation, I felt like it was the writer trying to undo his character for the lady, and I was like, because I didn't really expect that for her to like do. What about the babies? Or if she had said something, how to say, like that was, she didn't really know what she was talking about, but she was but still tripped him up on his science, because it is a weird. It felt a bit weird that she didn't know anything about science, but she could still trip him up on his science. She had to use something else, I think, rather than the
It
tool of
felt like
science.
something out of a much longer book, like out of a series that spanned years, and where by the end of the series the author actually doesn't like their main character that they've created,
Yeah,
and they need to
yeah.
create this other character to just unwind them completely.
Yeah.
It
I-
made it easier for me to. Sorry, I was just going to say it made it easier for me to realize, because I didn't really think about it before, that he's in London, and so this is a London prostitute, and I'm thinking, yeah, she doesn't give a shit. Like, yeah, that makes more sense. Just personally, then when I kind of clicked, I'm like, oh yeah, he's still in London. Oh yeah, no, she makes more sense now, because she's just like,
when she says, oh, I'll have the lads take you out or something like that, you go, oh yeah, it's still in London.
yeah, that sounds like her. Yeah. So that's just me personally. So that's kind of that hardest tax, and wanting to kind of mess him up and wanting to undermine him, because she's like, oh, you're full of it, and I don't like you because you're messing about. Here, I'm gonna mess with your head. And that kind of purposeful a kind of attack or undermining, for me, made more sense when I remembered they're in London.
I did think about that, about the sort of her quick responses to him, but to a degree, I thought it would probably make a lot of sense for a sex worker post AIDS to be somewhat not sort of aware of that, and aware of the impact on children of, if you have a sexually transmitted disease, like what the impact is on sort of pregnancies and stuff like that. Like, I feel like that would be something that they're at least aware of, or that they've seen before. If you're a sex worker sort of post AIDS, like you'd be somewhat aware of that, surely, so that it's not like she's totally speaking from, she has no idea what an STD even is. She has at least some experience.
Yeah. No, because she would be so much more well versed in STDs and viruses like that, because that's what she's dealing with. Like, we're more versed about education. That's what we deal with day to day. So yeah, that makes much more sense if you take into account, yeah, that's her job, which is maybe part of the reason he focused so much on his interactions with prostitutes. Makes it a little less unusual, I guess, that he would then go to a prostitute.
Take notes.
Yeah, and that's like, then kind of sets the groundwork for his fall. It's not like he suddenly decided, oh, I'm going to visit a prosy. It makes sense because
as you do, though. Come on.
Speak for yourself. I am aware I'm surrounded by men. But yeah, what are you saying about feminist lenses or anything? I feel like I've got none, because all the conversations before, and I'm sure the guys can test, is a test. I look at things definitely from a feminist point of view. Right. But yeah, that makes sense that she'd be more versed about the virus and its impacts and how it would affect people. And if he has explained it, then yeah, maybe she can kind of just, maybe it's not like she's purposely trying to undermine him, but because she knows that it can impact the children, she asks about the children.
Yeah, exactly. Quick aside, I do want to just quickly clarify that I haven't visited prostitutes. That was a slight joke aside.
Sure.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help.
We believe you.
I'm just digging a hole now.
Should we go to the scores? Should we? Is there anything else you guys want to say, or should we move on to the? Should we move on to the score?
Move swiftly on. I think.
I've never been to the prostitute in that apartment.
All right. Okay. I don't have anything else to say. Do you guys? Should we go to the scores?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realize there were scores. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dean thought of this. So Dean, perhaps you want to explain to Nick how we do this.
A simple score out of 10, or 3 stars or 5-star Yelp rating, that doesn't cut it for us. We score on out of 500.
Oh, okay.
That's. I mean, I don't think I'm alone in saying that. I think it's definitely provided the most interesting scoring, and probably the most well-rounded scoring.
Yeah. And yeah, whether you want to judge it on just your first your first reading or the discussion afterwards, it's totally up to you. Just go with your gut is my advice.
Who's gonna go first?
I'll go first. So I can't even remember what the old score was now. I'm gonna give it a good old 320 out of 500.
All right. Let me put your score up on the board. Dean's score. 320. All right, it's up.
Yeah.
Nick, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I think I'm gonna go with 288.
Next one with 288, and I'm just repeating what he said to buy time. Because I put it in an Excel sheet and then I put it up on OBS.
I think it was going to be a bit lower, but the discussions made me go like, okay, no, actually, there's a couple layers that like I hadn't quite considered that give it an extra, extra bit of bonus points for that. I think
It's like a 5 out of 10. I reckon it's a bad score.
But it would have been worse, is what he's
It
saying.
would have been worse. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go for a bit higher, because I think the second reading I enjoyed it more than the first time we read it, and I've understood more of the layers, as you say. I'm gonna go 373.
All right, 373. Let me put this one up. Okay, and for me, I really enjoyed the conversation more than I thought I would. I thought we were gonna like rehash and like agree on things that we'd already talked about, but I found the conversation really interesting, which made like looking back on the story more interesting. So I'm giving it a score of 428.
Ooh,
Yeah, I really.
That's generous.
But I mean, like, I definitely have some quibbles with the story, but I don't know. It's a bit of a. I'm reflecting on all the other stories we've read as well. I'm taking it all into consideration, and I'm thinking, yeah, it kind of is a good story. And my problems with the story it's more that I'm interested in it than yeah. So that's our scores are all up. Oh wait, no, I haven't put mine up on the OBS yet, but there it is.
No, I think that's a good point. While I was reading this, I was more aware of the context of other stories because I'm not as well versed with sci-fi stories, and that definitely, I think, changed how I approach this story now that we've read 24 others.
Yeah. And
ready for your drum roll?
Yeah, Nick, so what we do is we get an average of our scores, and we have some pre-recorded music. No, we don't. We have some musical instruments. Alright, we read The Moral Virologist by Greg Egan, who's from a country down under. and our score average is 352.
What
Is that
was
better or worse than last time?
context? You need context.
Okay, our score average last time was 349.
Oh,
Ooh.
it's what, 3 points more.
So 3 points more, despite
Yeah.
the fact that I've given it such a low score and probably brought that average down.
Well, I
The
mean,
general
It's
consensus.
an average, right? I mean, that's how.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, it's way better than our lowest score, which is oh,
5.
Dean recommended a story. You'll have to read it to understand.
To really appreciate it, yeah.
Yeah, 106. So it's
Oh,
okay.
ooh.
All right, I think I've got to go. So I'll
It's like Jamie.
yeah.
You just edit this out in the post.
I muted myself. But yeah, I think there's a crying baby in another room, and I had something in this room that needed to be outside. But well, okay. So anyway, and as far as our top scores go, what is our top score?
Because that's the one I want to know. I want to know what I really want to read of the 24 you've done so far. I want to get on the good ones.
Yeah, me too. I've not read the best during one. I wasn't here.
The best one is
Burning Chrome.
Burning Chrome.
Burning
With a
Chrome.
score of 435 as an average.
Wee.
All of the readers really enjoyed that story. That kind of helps. Sarah was not here that week, so she's saying that she might have brought it down.
I'm suspicious of this score.
As far as a sci-fi story goes, it's great.
Yes, it's a really cyberpunk. It really captures the idea of the cyberpunk world and the possible problems that can arise in this universe.
I feel like we talk about it quite often because it is the top score. Are we going to read that soon, or are we going to leave that for another anniversary?
For 50 for the half century, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's
Provided it's still the highest score.
No, I still want to revisit that. It's like a vendetta now.
There's no one stopping you from reading it.
No, I want to discuss it. I want to get your opinions. I didn't hear any of it. I don't listen to the live stream.
I definitely would like to, discuss it again. But anyway, next week, it was going to be me. But I think we've got a new person in the group, and I think we could let Nick think about it, and he could get back to us with the story. Mix it up a bit.
Yeah. I can see what I can. It's not sci-fi's not quite my genre of late, but I can see if I've got any old favorites somewhere.
Don't worry, I'm in the same group. I resort to the internet pretty much every time.
Yeah, apart from Philip K. Dick is essentially all the sci-fi I've read.
So we've read, was it Tony and the Beatles? Second Variety. There's at least 2 that we've read from him.
Yeah.
I feel like there's 2 or 3.
Yeah, we've done a couple of Isaac Asimovs. We've done.
Yeah, there isn't like
there's a few.
Yeah, Stephen, do you have like a list of what we've read so far, or do we have to go to?
I can read them out to you. Daughters
for
of
it.
the Moon,
I was just thinking,
Exhalation,
Stephen, I was
Amaryllis.
have it
Yeah.
written down so that
Oh,
we
yeah.
can
Otherwise, just look
resort
at the
to it.
YouTube channel.
No worries. Yeah, I'll make a little list so that everyone can make like one of those Google not forms, Google, like a Google spreadsheet that we can all take a look at
Yeah.
and yeah,
Sorry,
see.
Google's dropped me off suddenly.
Yeah, there's 2 of you now. Well, I'm just worried because when we get to 50, there's going to be even more that we've already read. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
let's see.
All right. Well, it's been good, and yeah, Nick definitely will be glad to hear about the story you recommend for our next meeting. So,
And
that'd be
don't
cool.
worry, 'cause you always will be comforted that it's going to be really hard to choose worse than the low score that we have.
Terrific.
It's going to
Dean,
be really hard. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Dean did
Yeah,
a wonderful
exactly.
job.
Yeah, it was not a great story.
I mean, it was great in a perverse way, in the wrong way.
That would be great on the back of the novel, like on the like it was great in a perverse way. The Times.
Just a letter of apology from the author.
Something like that. The author
Yeah.
would like to apologize for this. All right, thank you so much for having me on this.
No, it's been good.
All right. Cheers, guys. See you next time.
Yeah. See you next week.
Yeah,
Bye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Cool.
Ta-ra.
All
Cheers,
right.
cheers.
Bye.
Bye bye.